me, yes, the one and only Paul Friends, welcoming you to Starfleet Universe On Call. And tonight, well, it's just me. But hopefully I will be seeing you in the chat room on either the chat room in Twitch or the chat room in SFU On Call. I pay attention to both of them, so you shall be able to see them. Now, topics for tonight. Well, they always, you know me. I might set a topic, but they might change in the near future. Could change at the last minute. You never know. But in the meantime, before they change, the first topic for the evening is that I plan on talking about the web. That's one of my favorite subjects, and I can understand how you might be interested in the web. Obviously, I've shown previously the some of the effort that I've done for making SFB Online web browser based. I've got a little more further on that. It's a very long process. Right now, the biggest one is just getting the game board and getting it so that I can place pieces on the game board and things like that, which will be interesting. Actually, I got someone who volunteered some scalable counters, just sent me a few to see how they would work. And actually, those, hopefully I can get them integrated into the Java client. If I can't, I think I definitely could use them in the web-based SFB Online. But in addition to that, I've shown you in the past, of course, Starfleet Warlord. And Starfleet, the new aid that Dirk Johnson has been creating, him and a few of his gang, so that we can have, so everybody can play online. It's going to be the same play by quote unquote email. We're working towards the possibility of having it so that it's more of you play, you get notification that your turns are available, and then you can go right to the website and there it'll be available for you to look at. Or if you want to, you can still get it emailed to you, all the information that you want, which is, I think, going to be great. That's coming along slowly. He's got some college students working for him, so of course their school has taken priority over the work that he's doing for finishing up the Starfleet Warlord aid. Now, given that, obviously there's more to go on when it comes to that. The web is not just the games themselves. Now, one thing I actually been watching lately is John O'Bacon. I gotta get the guy's name right, about community. Now, I've also been listening to Release Notes, which is a podcast about basically creating your own business. And I know there are definitely certain things that I need to do to increase the number of people that come to the Starfleet Warlord, probably come to SFB Online. SFB Online, I think what might be a good draw for them is if I can get web-based. If not, I might be able to continue on with the desktop client, which I think is going to go for a long, good bit of time, because I'm just thinking about there's still a lot of games that you play on your computer, even though we have podcasters like Leo Laporte stating that, everything's going to go to the cloud. Everything, we're going to have it so that we just have these thin little machines, and then we're going to do everything remotely over the network. Well, the biggest issue I find with that supposition is that the problem with that is it assumes one thing. You've got a solid, fast internet. How many people in this country have that. I'd say probably, I'm giving population-wise, probably 75%. But that still leaves out 25%, the people in the rural communities that if they're lucky, they'll have DSL or possibly satellite. And even with satellite, the bandwidth are very limited. Talk about streaming Netflix. Are you kidding me? That'd be crazy. So, or you want to? Well, I'm not sure. Mr. Laporte is actually even thinking about this, which is, of course, the people in Cuba or other places where internet is limited or controlled so greatly by the government that you might as well not have internet at all. Now, I actually was reading about Cuba and the hacked network that they created, which was basically a self-sufficient little network that the main, people would set up little servers here, and basically it would be cut off from the internet. And what you do is you get these packages. Physically, you'd get like a drive, a disk drive, which then it would have all this information, which then you could make available to everybody on that little network. And then, of course, the government got involved. They found out, this was bigger than a certain degree, and then they put laws into place where it made it illegal to have these networks, without strict community control and so forth. The whole censorship thing, which, in my mind, well, I think that basically the internet, that the Cuban government just wanted to shut it down, in my mind. So that's because of less control. They wanted more control, and so they passed a law to make it impossible to run these little networks. Well, previously, they really didn't need the government to regulate the networks because they were small, pretty isolated little internet node communities. The local network wasn't that large. Okay, in which case you probably knew the person. If they acted up and acted in a very malicious manner or hostile manner, that then the community would step in. Which is actually, I was reminded of that. What was it? Let me think. I forgot it was a security I think it was a security podcast. I think it was a security podcast, where they were mentioning how when the original internet was created, all the internet access wasn't home. You didn't have internet access in your homes. They were all by the universities. So, given that, the people who were running the networks were the system administrators for those colleges. And if someone acted up, they put the hammer down on them, and that stopped that really quick. So it wasn't that we had greater freedom in the past. In fact, when the internet first was created, there was not that much freedom at all. But at the same time, it was the kind of community that everyone agreed that there are certain social norms, social standards that you did not violate. And if you violated, you got kicked off. And, and the internet was small enough back then that, and mainly through the colleges, so you didn't have that many nodes, on this network. In theory, if one node, one place which didn't control their users properly, what would happen? It would actually go and it would, I'm sure that there was a possibility that that node would be cut off from the rest of the network. Also, if I recall correctly, what was mentioned was that pretty much, the system administrators didn't want to have to do it, but they had to do it just to make it easier on themselves, so sorry, I went down that tangent, but I found it interesting, and of course I'm a tech guy, so I find it interesting. I love talking about that kind of tech, but part of the web when it comes to Starfleet Warlord and SFB Online is not just the clients, the ability to play the game. There's also the community, and that I watched a few videos from John O'Bacon on the community, and I'm thinking about this and going, yeah, I'm not. It's a lot of work to keep a community, to build a community, Now, I'm not sure if that's possible with Starfleet Warlord SFB Online to build up a community so that we get to the point where but John Bacon was talking about, where you got the whole idea is that you have this constant stream of posts, not necessarily daily, or communication. Well, it doesn't even have to be posts. These, forums was one way to do this. To be honest, I hate Facebook. I'm on Facebook because that's where people are. Facebook is not, in my mind, it can help you manage people. It cannot help you manage conversations. That's the difficulty part with groups on Facebook. So, given that, I tried to get the Starfleet Warlord people to go away from Facebook and go someplace, do something else. But they said, unfortunately, that most of them are older, and so this is where we want. Now the question is, how much longer will Facebook be the place to be when it comes to community? And I'm not sure. I'll probably have to think it through about what to do. Should I have? Because John Bacon, one thing he says, you don't want to set up separate communities. You don't want to have some on Facebook, some here, some there. You don't want that division within your community. Well, the big problem with that in my case is, am I cutting myself off from customers, people that want to play Starfleet Warlord, possibly in SFB Online, because in theory with SFB Online you can go to the Starfleet Universe forum there, which actually I like very much. When it comes to managing conversations, it's not great. It's more like an IRC channel, but it's not this crazy thing with in Facebook where you got you can do replies to a certain thing, but the thing is you can't find what threads are open and need replies to. How do you do that? And that's the funny part, is that many definitely months, probably over a year ago, I decided I can't. I don't want to know more how to do this whole Facebook thing, and I can't find any guide whatsoever on how to use Facebook, to do what I want to do. Whether it's building a community, have a group, manage pages, all these functions. There's nothing out there about how to use Facebook, and I do not have the time to go and find out what this little feature does, what this little feature does, what this little feature does. How For all I know, there might be a better way of managing the conversations, managing the, finding out what's new, what's the new posts, because the problem is stinking Facebook algorithm. You can't know what is the latest posts, what the latest replies that have been done to posts. You can't find them; they're hidden. And if you anyone out there who, if you know a way of doing that, please feel free. Please feel free to jump on in and email me at sfuoncall@gmail.com. Or you can send it to my SFW Online account, Andromedan at sfbonline.com. Or if you want to, even send me at my Starfleet Warlord account, which is warlord at play-by-e-mail.com. Don't ask. It's kind of a short story, long story kind of thing on that domain name. But anyway, so if someone could help me, and maybe I could build up a community that way. Don't know. But at the same time, I don't want to spend my whole days and nights on Facebook, because Lord knows that's one thing that John Bacon actually pointed out when it comes to community, is that with a sense of community, the problem with using Facebook for a community is distractions. And so that someone can be posting in your group, and all of a sudden they get a notification which they cannot stop, and that have you seen the latest picture of your aunt's I don't know, your aunt's kid or something, or whatever, the latest graduation pictures or whatever, things like that, where you want, which, because you have your family there, it's not just your family, you got other people there, not just your group, versus if you have like a forum or some other piece of software that you actually can manage, and the focus is what you're doing. In that case, you don't have to worry about the distractions. The problem, of course, with that is community, is making it so that people come back. What's the best way of describing that? I know there's a word for it. It's got on my tip of my tongue. It's engagement. That's it. Get the community engaged, so they'll come back again and again. And they gave a number of I think it's like 2 months or something like that. People have to be engaged and come back consistently over a period of time, so that they will come back. And in my mind, that is true. There's a couple forums that I visit. At the moment, I visit Facebook once a day, and I've removed the app from my devices, just because I don't want to be sucked into it on my devices. So if I'm going to look at Facebook, I'm going to look at it on my computer. And since my computer basically, it seems like to me that Facebook really wants you to use your desktop. At least that's where the best interface seems to be. So, it is what it is when it comes to that. So, again, if someone has an idea of how to better to engage, if you say, oh, read the Facebook help, I can read the Facebook help. Maybe that can help me. I don't know. And the problem is, Facebook wants to hide this, and of course, then I think the reason why no one's trying to write up a book on it is because Facebook is changing all the time. So that by the time you write a book, it's out of date. But anyway, so that's part of obviously need to get more engaged. But I know I have a nice mailing list for SFB Online. I could probably get that going some more because I only post there every single time I post a client, and I don't see much engagement from other people in the community, which means basically the only way I'm going to encourage engagement is if I engage the community myself, so, and the question is, what do I talk about? I'm sorry, SFB Online and Starfleet Warlord is not my life. It's one of those, it's basically called a side hustle is what it is, and, that's not where I earn my main income, because Lord knows if that was my main income, I'd be so freaking screwed, But anyhow, the one thing actually I wanted to show you guys, let me see, there. There's that one thing I have been working on this past weekend. I've been trying to decide that I need to redo the Starfleet Warlord, because of SFB Online. It was going to be a little more harder because the SFB Online actually is more interactive. It requires access to more dynamic data. I think I can convert that one to what I'm planning on doing for Starfleet Warlord, but I think Starfleet Warlord is a good first step in that whole process. So, without further ado, what I want to do is I want to show you guys my desktop, and show you the current iteration. There's still some tweaking I need to make, and that is this. This is my Starfleet Warlord. The way it's going to look, I still have some things to get done. This is not active on it, but this is what it's going to look like. There's some additional stuff, like I need to replace that graphic. I have not actually gotten around to actually replacing the graphic to be, I want it to be what the Franz Games logo. I think that, or possibly I might have to modify that Franz Games logo a little bit, make it a little more darker to go along with the theme here, because I kind of like the theme, but I'm not quite sure about the colors. And to me, the text might be a little large. I'm debating on those tweaks, but this is the basic idea what it's going to look like. We've got home, looks like it's pretty much the same graphic that I've had before, which is the old Starfleet Warlord rulebook cover. I like it, and then I added down to the bottom here, which is a description, which actually comes from the rulebook itself. So a nice description here. If you notice that when you click on the home page, then down here below this line, you'll see this, and then of course there is my email address, the way to contact me. I'm not sure if I'm going to plan on adding a contact us page. I might not sure. I might do it because of in addition to having this email, just click on it to bring up my email. Have the old news that's been in the past, which I need to update and keep more viable, because when people ask me, okay, is SFB Online, Starfleet Warlord, is it still running games? I actually have to say yes, I'm still running games. I got, in this case, these are the games I'm currently running. I got Die Hard 48, 49, and 91. I actually have to check to see if I've updated the information here. These are quick descriptions. I actually want to increase the description, describing the game a little more about that. Not sure how much information I want to put here, because see, that's always the difficult part about Starfleet Warlord versus SFB Online. Starfleet Warlord is a lot about finding data or gathering data. And that's not, I can't share data that's not known by the general community of that game. So I don't want to do that. New downloads, it looks quite a bit different from what it used to look like. I actually want to do this and go. This is the current website. So, downloads look like this versus this. I think this is a much better look for it. Some of it I have to organize. For example, down here, there is a quick movie. There's a movie which shows how to use the DOS-based aid. I don't think anyone's using the DOS-based aid anymore. So I think for that, what I want to do for that is I want to create another YouTube, another video on how to use the current GUI aid. After you install it and so forth. So I'm hoping that I can get that going. But this is the new look. Still has the same old descriptions, but I think it's it looks much better. Of course, normal prices, electronic and ways to pay. It's still the top. You have the 4, which is PayPal, Square. You can mail me a check or send me a money order. Still have an archive of the old Starfleet Warlord newsletters, which I got from the old Agents of Gaming website. So that's why I still keep it around. I think it's important to have these newsletters around because they tell a lot about Starfleet Warlord. I got, this I want to improve some. It's going to take a bit of time though, because this shows the final map. I want to show the final map. I want to show who the winners were. I'm not sure. I might even want. I'd like to have a final report. I have to think about that because I might show the final report of the winner of the game. Is what I probably want to do, and I'm not sure. I'm probably going to want to talk to the community about that to see if that's okay. For those people who won, seeing your last turn, the final turn kind of thing. The final result was says, "Oh, you're the winner," and gives people what idea what looked like, what the actual results were, because you still have the maps, which is these maps, which are, I know they're kind of old, in that they use letters here to represent the different corporations. And here's the corporations. If you notice on this one, the asterisk is the nasty space monsters. You don't see many in this, in the end result of the game. Wow. F is what? F was Despicable Tribbles, which was Peter Hickman, which looks like look at this. There's F's all over here. There's some A's here, all the way down here. Pretty good. Maybe I can pause. I'm not sure. I was thinking about maybe talk to Dirk to see if there's a better way of showing that. Quick about. This thing. Is run by me. Friends Games, and Friends Games is a single-person operation focused on the Starfleet Universe games being available online, which is basically what Friends Games is. I meant to have it to be more than that, but at this point in time, I'm not sure that's possible. But we'll have to wait and see. And then just some simple, the sample files. Whoops. I lost That one? Okay. I've got them here. I think I created the links wrong. Yeah, see sample. I'm sure. Samples? Yep. No, it's not that. Okay, doesn't matter. The point of the showing you real quick is what that like any other website, every so often the website needs to be renewed. It needs to be freshened up. It needs to be changed. It needs to be updated. Because without that, then people think you're dead. And more importantly, you want to basically not look like that the whole website is abandoned. Which it isn't, and a good point to that is, as I said, that had at least one person, contact me saying, "Are we still running games?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got 3 games currently going, and I'm waiting for the standard game number 91 to trail off, which is going to be at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to start up a new game, and it's going to be a Die Hard because the way I figured I can run 3 Die Hard games and 1 standard game at a time. For a while there, all I did was Die Hard games, and I got tired of that format of just doing that because let's do a standard game. I've gotten suggestions, and I need to know what I got to see what I can do about making the suggestions implemented. Do it. But so I wanted to show you that. The next thing next topic for this evening, that I wanted to do, and which is I wanted to talk about Starmada. Now, the thing with Starmada is that it is and isn't SFB Online. The whole idea of Starmada is another way. It's taking Starfleet Universe background material and implementing it using a different engine. Now, here's the gotcha. And this is always the most difficult part, which is you want it to keep the feeling of SFB. You want the feeling to be the same, but different engines, different ways of running things without losing what's core to SFB, Starfleet battles, like shields, like seeking weapons, like direct fire weapons. Whole idea of turn mode, I don't think turn mode is nearly as critical, especially given that if you look at Starmada doesn't really have the idea of turn mode per se, though that is actually taken care of by. They do have a concept of turn mode in that it's based. How much it takes to turn a ship is based off your speed. So it's kind of inertial kind of thing. It takes more. If you're going speed 6, I think it takes like 6 movement points to turn the ship. 1 hex side. I think there's a way of doing hex, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, I'm not going to go through a full tutorial of what Starmada is. I'm going to go through a general overview of how it is different from SFB. So, this is the normal sequence of play. Hopefully you guys can read this. I'm going to do this just for giggles. Okay, let's go like this. Okay, now, make it a little bit easier to read. So, you start with the orders phase. Now, this is one of those things that, in an effort to bring together two different editions of Starmada, they decided to have options. Yay! Okay. Now, this is like SFB back in the day. In that one of those things back in the day was the whole idea of pre-plotted movement. Now, at the beginning of time, when SFU was created, the standard way of moving things was pre-plotted movement. So, and then later on, free movement was added into the game. And after people have free movement, that's when people went, why are we doing this pre-plotted movement stuff? I can do so much more. I have more control with free movement, and which case that's why we have free movement. We're not actually recording what movement, how we're moving our ships. Now, that's why we have this kind of goofiness. That is, if you're using random initiative, assemble and shuffle the activation deck. So the idea is that unlike SFB, where initiative is defined by speed, you roll a dice. Like in this case, you assemble and shuffle activation deck, which is basically you have a deck of cards for representing the ships, and then you figure, okay, who moves first, who moves when. Or if you're using sequential method on alternate proceeding steps 1D through 2C. And then in that case, what happens is that you go back and forth between sides. Your side moves one, his side moves one, your side moves one, his side, and then the next turn you swap it. So he goes first, he moves one ship, then you move one ship, and so forth. And then finally, there is C, which is if not using sequential movement, conduct steps 1 through D simultaneous for all purposes. And that is, simultaneously for all ships. So for simultaneous for all ships, what you're doing is you're recording movement orders. You're then determining the engine requirements, expending boosters, and record the use of secondary weapon moves, and then reveal the orders. And then you both have to confirm the orders that are valid. Now, so in that case, see, with B, there's no reason to record, your movement orders because you're moving in one ship at a time. So it's kind of pointless to do that. But in this case of C, where you're not using sequential movement, But you basically, in my mind, they should not call it not using sequential movement. I think it should be called simultaneous movement. I think that might be a better term, because it exactly describes what you're doing, which is everyone's going to record their movement, and then we all go, here's my moves. That, in SFB terms, is basically pre-plotted movement. That, believe it or not, that is what I learned. I want to see the Admiralty edition. I think that's the edition of Starmada that I first learned. And to me, that is what caught me. That is what got my interest in Starmada, was that thing, which was the whole idea of pre-plotted movement. And the thing is, this pre-plotted movement is not hard. You know, we'll get to that in a bit. After that, then go through the movement phase. Then of course you have the fighter phase, where then you move all the fighters. And of course with this you can either use the random initiative, or you can do one fighter at a time. This one doesn't have a sequential, which is fine. And then combat phase, of course, then we have you can use, again, random combat initiative by assembling and shuffling decks. So you can define them by, you shuffle a deck of cards, and which defines what ships actually get moved. I mean, actually fire first. Now, remember one thing is that even if, in that case, if it's random, my understanding is this is all considered, right. It's all considered simultaneous. Now, if you're alternating making attacks, the other one is alternating of the ship attacks one ship at a time. And again, this talks about, right, declare the targets. For each target, fire the weapons, make the impact roll. Then, if impact is inflicted, then you roll a damage roll. This is the way firing weapons in combat works. And of course, if using sequential combat, E5, apply effects and weapons damage and resolve explosions. Then you resolve certain systems options, use the same time as weapons fire, all the different things, including place and the end phase, and you have all the normal effects, apply effects of weapons damage. In this case, versus, the random versus sequential combat. So if you're not using sequential combat, then you apply the effects of weapons and resolve explosions at the end phase. See, that's the goofiness of Unity. Unity is great in that you have one set of rules. So you no longer have, if you have to ask, okay, what rules are you playing with? But at the same time, you still got to ask what rules are you playing with. Which options are you taking is what it comes down to. Instead of having separated into actually physical different rule books. And so some of the stuff is duplicated, some of it's not. Then you have one book which then says, okay, which options do you want? Oh, freaking hell. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not sure how long I've been talking while it's been muted. So it should be interesting to go back. I'm not sure where I muted myself. And I apologize for that. I'm going to go back just real quick then to, I think it might have been combat. I think I went through, I'm praying that I went through the movement. Let's go back to the combat. You have, combat, the way it works when it comes to firing the weapons, again, is that each weapon has a number of dice equal to its rate of fire. Like for a phaser G, you might have a rate of fire of 4. The first thing you have to determine is the weapon that you can use against it, and of course you have to find out what is the range too, because that's kind of critical. And each die roll that equals for those dies when it comes to rate of fire, each die roll that exceeds either is equal to or exceeds the weapon accuracy, a number of dice is rolled equal to the weapon's impact value. So you have to first, you got to hit it. So you have to, for your accuracy, you have to hit it, and then number of dice rolled equal to the weapon's impact value of that accuracy. Then you roll again another set of dice, and then for each of those dice that exceeds the target's shield, then you have to roll a number of dice equal, to the weapon's damage. So you can and then the effects of that damage are applied at end phase. Now, the damage allocation is actually relatively simple. It's a D6, and then you have a 50% chance of doing a hull hit. So it's 1 to 3 is a hull hit. Roll 4 is the engine hit. Roll 5 is a weapons hit. Roll 6 is a shield hit. I'm not gonna go through fighters, but and after and that depending upon how you're playing, that's whether it's sequential or not sequential, the damage is taken at different parts of the game. And shield hits are resolved one box. Once the last shield box is checked and further shield hits are ignored. If the target has no shield track, i.e., no shields, any damage roll of a 6 is considered to have no effect, which is interesting. So, if you have a damage roll above, to see if it actually impacts, causes damage, how much damage you get. If you roll a 6, it misses. So even if you have no shield, there is the possibility that you'll get no damage from the weapons hits. So it's interesting. It's an interesting way of doing it. Right. And shows that. Just looking at really quick at a cloaking device. A cloaking device may not be attacked by any starships or fireflights, so basically it is completely, in Starmada, is completely safe while a ship is cloaked. It cannot be attacked. Now, of course, it may not attack either with any of its weapons. While a cloaked ship may not launch or recover while it's cloaked, also they cannot launch or recover any fireflights, which is interesting. And seeking flights already on the game board are unaffected. However, no additional flights may be launched. Big surprise. For all of us, that makes complete sense. Now, I have to check, but I feel pretty confident saying that in SFB, you in theory can launch a fighter or shuttle from a cloaked ship. The issue with that is that you give away its position. It's like the whole flashbulb effect. At least I'm willing to bet that is what would happen. On cloaked ship, the controlling player simply records, the cloak and that, and at the start of the movement phase, before any ships are moved across the game board, place the ship's model in the hex containing the cloak marker, and move it according to all orders recorded while it was cloaked before. Then carry out the ship's current movement orders. Remove the cloaked marker from the game board. So crazy for all of us. Gotta love it. Marine says Marines and what are Marines? Marines are munitions. And of course, for all of us in SFB land, Marines are used for hit and run raids. FligCom does the same thing. You can do hit and run raids. Also, Marines can be used for boarding parties in SFB, so you actually can capture ships. I'm not sure that option is available. I feel pretty confident in saying that that option is not available in Starmada itself. Yeah, I'm not sure why they do, but they do. Possibly because of different scenarios. And that is, Starmada actually has probes. Why? Yeah. So I'm assuming it's because of certain scenarios in SFB require the use of probes. Because probes are scientific instruments carried by starships for surveying and scouting purposes. They may also be used to help starships locate their targets. Probes are launched during the combat phase at the same time that the ship makes its attacks, which is interesting. I'm not sure how it's supposed to help locate their targets. It's not like it can actually, and they have back here, which is probes as weapons. Okay, let me look at this for a moment, which is directional screens. A starship with directional screens doesn't have a single screen. Instead, it has separate groups. Okay. So instead of having 6 shields, it has 4 shields. Front, back, starboard, port and starboard. So basically, the port and starboard, they actually cover two shield facings versus the front and the aft, which cover only a single shield facing. Well, when it comes to when it's related to SFB. Anything else I want to go over before I call it a night? I think I'll end there. It's gonna be interesting to find out what actually got recorded, because I don't know when I stopped recording and muted myself. Oh, that's gonna be interesting. But hope you enjoyed the quick overview of Starmada. Obviously, it's not a complete overview of movement of weapons and how they work, which is totally different, and so forth. If you really are interested, buy a copy. You can easily get it from one of the e-tailers, Warehouse 23, Drive-Thru RPG, or War Game Vault. So I hope you enjoyed my little walkthrough. And with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.